My favourite quote from Superman will always be, "Don't be afraid, kids. Gambling can't hurt you, but the loved ones around you, they can." And that's why this time on Resident Evil Village, Ethan will have to stop Heisenberg from making any more love confessions, best Mother Miranda, and get his daughter back so that he can continue gambling with his newfound riches. Heisenberg, after his love confession from the last episode, prepared a special entranceway just for us, only furthering his love towards Ethan. Once we make it to Heisenberg's hideout, we find out that he has a wall full of pictures of people that Ethan loves or that have tried to harm him. And before we know it, Heisenberg is standing right behind us, once again attempting to give yet another love confession. Through our constant denying of his love, we quickly find out that Heisenberg-chan must be a yandere, seeing as how he was quickly willing to drop us into a hole if it meant no one else could have us. If you thought the debt collector was bad from the last episode, Ethan will now have to fight against his toughest challenge yet, the vasectomy fan thing. But right before confronting Heisenberg, Ethan watched an episode of Vinland Saga, meaning in this moment he had no enemies. So he ran, also because he didn't want a vasectomy. Before Ethan knew it, he had ended up in a factory that was producing hundreds of mindless gambling drones, and it was soon apparent that this factory violated almost every possible code, apart from the gambler's code. Gamblers never quit. But this still doesn't mean that gamblers still can't get scared from outrageously stupid jump scares, or blow themselves up out of sheer stupidity. Not once, but twice. Of course, we've had to fight many creatures during our time in the factory and get solar flared, but none of that was going to be enough to stop this gambler. Nothing except for the fear of the vasectomy fan. For some reason, this factory connected with a mineshaft, where I saw a scene that vaguely reminded me of Zoolander. And for some reason, the mineshaft had a giant fan that led to a really cool and very pixely moment. What is going on? La la la. Subscribe and like. And so the journey continues into a very dark section of the factory, where to no surprise, Heisenberg and his mindless goons continue to attempt to stop Ethan from his pursuit to continue gambling. But little does this Walter White ripoff know, Ethan is actually a living legend in the gambling community, trained by gambling legends such as Gambler Oogway and Gambler Wu, the two gamblers that taught him the secrets of gambling. This meant that Ethan knew all four of the elements that were needed to become a gambling legend. But even gambling legends can get stuck on very tedious ball puzzles every so often. But at last, it was finally time for the well-awaited death battle. Ethan Winters versus the vasectomy fan. And just like that, the gambling legend took down the vasectomy fan with ease, whilst also furthering his riches to use on gambling once he left this village full of evil residents. But it wasn't over yet. Right after that intense battle, Heisenberg Chan was able to find Ethan, giving it one more shot. He confesses to Ethan, but Ethan knew his heart belonged to gambling. However, it turned out that Heisenberg was a big fan of Power Rangers, so much so that he made his own life-sized Megazord to deal with this hard-hitting rejection. Like the gambler Ethan was, he took the leap of faith, knowing he would have Lady Luck on his side. After recovering from the fall, Ethan is confronted by the Mafia's leader, the man that was holding Ethan's daughter for ransom, only to tell us that if we want to see our daughter again, we'll have to fight back with our own mini Megazord, which meant one thing.
He's a rocket and he's ready to go, cause now the countdown has started and he's ready to blow. He's got the dope sounds bumping and his stereo. That's fast, putting on a show. Don't wanna get yourself together, there's no time to rest. And if you put the time in, he'll put you to the test. He's like a running man and his world war is less. And if you wanna test him, best bring your best. Don't make me spell it out, bring your best. In this world, where life is strong.
And in the end, not even a yandere with Magneto powers was enough to overpower Ethan and his love for gambling. And of course his daughter. Kind of, but from behind. Ethan hears a familiar voice. One that isn't a slot machine for once, but instead our wife, Mia. But the last time we saw her, she was being... Yet it all turned out to be a lie. It was Mother Miranda the whole time. And it seemed like she was also after our heart. Literally.
Finally awake.
The Mafia leader that stole Ethan's daughter had now lost Ethan's daughter, meaning that his retirement plans had now gone out the window. So that meant no trip to Hawaii anytime soon, meaning if he wanted that trip to happen, or any trip at all, or to even retire from this miserable job at being a Mafia leader, he would have to get Ethan's daughter back.
Bravo 6. Going dark.
Instead of finding Ethan's daughter, this Mafia leader instead found the heart of gambling. This heart was said to hold all the desires of gambling inside of it, making it one of the most powerful and feared hearts to ever exist. So powerful that not even Gambler Oogway or Gambler Wu were able to defeat it. But then again, neither of them thought about using an explosive. Soon enough, Chris would find himself in a basement, where he'd also soon enough find Mia. The real Mia, at least. Luckily, she didn't seem to have any memory of him, which meant she didn't have any revenge schemes planned, other than the one to get her husband to quit gambling. After informing Mia that her husband bit the dust, you'd think she'd look worried, upset, or worse. But instead, Mia says that there is something special about Ethan. Do not get the wrong idea. Ethan did indeed bite the dust. But he wasn't in heaven, and he definitely wasn't on earth anymore. He was in the gambling god's world now. Ethan was proposed a deal. The gambling god would give him some of its power, its gambling powers, if he beat the god in a
I summon Pot of Greed to draw 3 additional cards from my deck!
That's not what it does.
My dice! That is what it does! Pot of Greed! Draw 3! I summon Pot of Greed to draw 3 additional cards from my deck!
ごめん誰も行くんじゃいない今はただただこの世界が心地いい
And I summon Pot of Greed to draw 3 additional cards from my deck! Then I play Magic Force, which allows me to play Pot of Greed once again to draw 3 additional cards from my deck! Exodia! Obliterate!
Turns out, Ethan knew the secret of the Pot of Greed strategy, meaning he had a sure and easy victory against his so-called god of gambling, meaning that he was now alive again and ready to save his daughter and continue gambling. At last, it was finally time for Ethan to confront Mother Miranda, the person behind this village and its evil resident. I've made this joke already. Once finding Miranda, we attempt to confront her, but not before she finishes her super evil chant. That chant being to summon Ethan's own daughter. Truly evil. But, just like KDB, the Mafia leader shows up, coming in with an assist. And so, Ethan, like the goat that he is, isn't going to let this go any further. Is why Ethan was going to say, before Mother Miranda transformed into a hideous beast. More hideous than your mom. And so, it was finally time for Ethan's final battle, before he could take his daughter back and continue his life of gambling. And how else would he do that without showing off the Winter family's secret technique? Which didn't seem to do much, since Mother Miranda thought it was time to grow some extra legs. But even with the portion of the gambling god's powers, Ethan was still struggling against Miranda and her new set of legs. Just how could Ethan possibly beat something like this? Something that was this strong? But then Ethan remembered. He remembered the wise words he was once told. Gamblers never cry and never give up, and they'll never pull that. through sheer determination, Ethan Winters was able to best Mother Miranda. But she wasn't finished with our gambling legend just yet, creating her own spirit bomb that had one major flaw. It was weak to bullets, and with a couple gambling god powered shots to the face. And with that, Mother Miranda was no more. Ethan had finally bested all of these evil residents in this village. I did it again. Now Ethan's daughter was finally safe from any more of those bad residents. However, Ethan's bet with the gambling god had run out. He now had no way to keep his body alive. But in the end, Ethan was not a gambler. He was not a gambling legend. He was not a gambling god. He was a hero. A hero that made people like the Mafia's leader question, maybe this was our Resident Evil Village all along. Yet, it wasn't over. Not yet. Turns out, an explosive wasn't enough to stop the heart of all gambling. So what was enough to stop the heart of gambling in its tracks? A bigger explosive, of course. One that Ethan was taking upon himself to detonate, whilst everyone else got away safely.